In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We welcome you to hour number 3, our third and final here on January 2nd, 2025, our first day of the early line in a new year. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. So much to preview for you here in this third and final hour. In our last half hour, our final 3 segments, a complete breakdown with picks, previews, and best bets for today's Sugar Bowl at 4 p.m. Eastern Time in New Orleans between Georgia and Notre Dame. We'll get you the proper perspective for this week in the National Football League. Normally with TV Tom Vecchio, that means a Thursday night football game. It's been the case since the very first game and day of the year, way back in the season debut in September between the Chiefs and the Ravens. No short week Thursday night game this year, or this week, I should say. So we'll get you set for the final weekend and how to approach all the handicapping based on motivation, both individually and team success, that we will see for the Week 18 slate. Some hardwood handicaps as well. NBA is still playing. We've got college basketball conference slates in a big way now picking up starting in 2025. A lot to get to here in this third and final hour.
No, there certainly is a lot to it and a lot to be determined this week in Week 18. And also, we weren't expecting to have a heavy card in football tonight. It's supposed to be only one game, the Gator Bowl. But now we have the Sugar Bowl today at 4 o'clock. And you know me, the earlier the start, the better. So we'll be invested, having some fun, and watching that game all the way through as the next team to advance in the college football playoffs. So a lot of good things to look forward to. It is January already. It is 2025. So if you're writing out checks or filling out data points here, you're going to want to write that 2024 down. 2025 is here. By the way, it's a nice year, by the way, right? Every like the year 2000, 2025, 2050, 2075. It's a nice year, 2025. We'll see if it's profitable as well, which I think it will be.
I hope it is a very profitable, optimistic, and happy and healthy new year in 2025, DRS.
Yeah.
Now we've got to talk a little bit about Week 18 and a topic we barely hit on at the very start with all the recaps and the news that we needed around the college football playoff. Yesterday, as college football was kicking off, we got news out of Philadelphia that for Week 18, in a game that does not mean anything for the Eagles as a team, they've clinched the NFC East, the 2 seed in the conference, waiting to see who is the 1 seed ahead of them. the Eagles will take on the New York Giants. But individually, could be a big game for Saquon Barkley, just 101 yards away from setting the new single-season rushing yards record. Well, the Eagles told us yesterday that Saquon Barkley and the rest of the starters would sit and rest in the regular season finale. Does Donnie Rightside like the call? Do the people like the call? We find out and Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, are the Eagles making the right decision by resting Saquon Barkley this week? Your two options, rather simple. Yes or no. 67% of the public saying yes, that Nick Sirianni, the Eagles brass, and Philadelphia making the right decision, resting Saquon Barkley in Week 18, which will end his hunt for history 100 yards shy of Eric Dickerson's mark that was set back in 1984, 2,105 rushing yards. Still stands as the single-season rushing yards record in the National Football League. So the public, resoundingly so, DRS, says yes. You agree. How come?
I do. And by the way, what's the tagline we like to use? It's smarter to be on the grid. Well, we have some of the smartest listeners on the face of the earth, at least 67% of them, who voted yes along with me. Understand this. And maybe it would be a little bit harder for me to explain if I was a fan of another team and I said to myself, boy, it would be interesting to see him go after this record. I would like to watch. But as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I do not want to watch Saquon Barkley set a record to be the all-time leading rusher in a single season. He's going over 2,000 yards, which is fantastic, unbelievable, way more than anybody ever thought he would do. And because he's usually been injured, which is the key buzzword right now, injury. Understand this. How many times have you brought up in your life, whether it's work or whether it's sports? What do we always tell you? There is no I in team. So if Saquon Barkley said he wanted to go for the record, he would be spelling team with an I. And I'm glad to see, and you saw all the highlights this year, he could have set a record for himself in the Giants game early in the season. Let the young kids spin here. You saw the final game last week, which Saquon even said, I was fine with 2,000, agreed with the decision to take me out with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Then he goes to bed, thinks about it a little bit more. You know what? It would have been nice to go for the record, but that's completely gone. And also, the biggest part of this, thank you, Philadelphia Eagles, for having a sane organization and understanding what your job actually is. Correct me if I'm wrong. We don't open training camp and have our first meeting of the season and go, you know what? AJ, your goal this year, more yards than anybody else in history. Saquon, your goal, more yards than anybody in history. Quarterback, Jalen Hurts, your goal, more yards. No! They talk about winning the division, which they did. They talk about making the playoffs, which they did. You talk about raising the Lombardi trophy, which is the goal, not gaining yards to make sure that you get more yards than anybody else. Because hear me out on this. And Nick Sirianni was in a tough spot because, yes, some fans, idiotically as they would be, wanted him to play. And maybe if you told the players you want to play, maybe they would say that. You have to save yourself from that. Because understand this. Answer me this question. If Saquon Barkley tries to go for it in this game against the Giants, and you lose a Lane Johnson, a Jordan Mailata, maybe a Cam Jurgens, maybe a Saquon Barkley, because you were trying to get a record, you know what happens? The public that was telling you how much fun it was to actually go and get that record said, you stupid coach, I can't believe this team. Now we can't win a Super Bowl. So you see what I'm doing here? You can't play Saquon Barkley in a meaningless football game. The only person that would is Dan Campbell, and that's it.
I'm actually very impressed by you for not using a curse word in that moment.
I was
really
ready.
thought one was coming.
Yeah.
Really
I was ready.
Well done. And DRS, I think that is the overall sentiment as well that I would agree with. Yes, the individual accolades in the records in the history book would be something that would live on well beyond this season, well beyond Saquon Barkley's playing days in the National Football League. But you know what defines your career legacy even more than individual records? Super Bowl championships. And Saquon himself has stated that as his personal goal, not the personal record of the most rushing yards in a single season. And he'll still live in the history books, by the way, one of 9 players in the history of the NFL to have 2,000 rushing yards or more in a single season. He just won't catch Eric Dickerson, or at least have the opportunity to do so. And Donnie, you made this point last year. The Eagles played their starters in Week 18 and
Yes,
got Jalen Hurts a little bit banged up and A.J. Brown a little bit banged up for a reeling Eagles team that then got shellacked in the Super Wild Card round in the opening round of the NFL postseason, despite being the better record team on the road in Tampa against the Buccaneers. You learn from your mistakes. That will not be the case here for Philadelphia this time. And I do want to make one final point. We kind of talk about it in the preseason a little bit. If you are going to play a starting quarterback or starters around the offense, you then need everybody to be out there. If Saquon Barkley is going to play in hunting down the record, the entirety of the offensive line then needs to start as well. And that is maybe even more important to postseason success than individuals. That offensive line as a unit.
By the way, also, Eric Dickerson, shout him out. Hey, an extra game he's going to get. Did Eric Dickerson not remember he got extra games to break the record for O.J. Simpson? Like, what are we even doing here at this point where Eric Dickerson's upset that he might have an extra game to get it? Madness out here in the streets.
This guy's firing. That's good Donnie right side right there. More of the early line next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
For the first time, really all season in the National Football League, there is not a Thursday night game to break down here on the early line with TV Tom Vecchio. He gives you the prop perspective each Monday and Thursday. Not a Thursday night NFL game. If Tom has some thoughts on either the Gator Bowl or the Sugar Bowl, we can get those in just a matter of moments. But outside of that, we get you ready for the regular season finale weekend around the National Football League. The early approach to what can be a confounding handicapping weekend based on mentality, motivation, and who might need to hit a contract incentive. Vecchio, as always, we appreciate the time, and a Happy New Year to you.
Of course, thanks for having me. Happy New Year to you guys as well. Super interesting week, as Donnie and I were just talking about during the break. It's an awesome week to get into props, again, motivation, what we're expecting from certain teams, but we're just waiting for lines to be posted. That's what it comes down to. So, we're kind of in this waiting area until these lines get posted. Then we can actually dive in to find out where there's value. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. We don't have all the prop market out by any means, of course, but Vecchio, in terms of motivation, in stakes, in the significance on the line, there is no question what is out there for our final game of the regular season in game 272 between the Lions and the Vikings. The winner claims the NFC North in the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. Just a 2.5-point spread in favor of the Lions in the Motor City. But from that prop perspective, Vecchio, knowing the stakes, we also look at that total, 56.5. It would be the highest number we have seen in nearly 5 seasons in the National Football League. With that in mind, could be a big night for some prop overs. How do you approach the regular season finale between the Vikes and the Lions?
I really want to like the under. I do. 56 is so high, like you said. And given the importance of this game, I don't think these teams want to turn it into a back and forth barn burner. I think this game ending, let's call it 24-20, that gives us an awesome game. Two great teams, some decisive swings, maybe a turnover here and there. It ends right at the spread, but the points are just too much. Given what's at stake in this game, I don't think they want to turn this into a 34-31 kind of ball game. So I don't mind looking into some overs, maybe on attempts for some of these quarterbacks, either Goff or Donald, just because they'll be out there. The teams will be moving the ball back and forth, but a late interception will cause this game to go under. That's my ultimate take. I really want to believe in the under.
I love this game. It's fun because, again, in Week 18, it's one of the few games that, both teams are going to go full blast, easier to handicap. Now, winning, certainly a different understanding of that, but we're at least going to get that honest effort. When we're talking about handicap in Week 18, some of these games come up. The Denver Broncos need to win. The Kansas City Chiefs are already off into the playoffs. That line is ballooned now to 10.5 at the FanDuel Sportsbook and a 39.5. No Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be Carson Wentz as the starter when the Denver Broncos are at home, just needing a victory. So technically, Tom, we don't need style points. You just need a victory. But how do you handicap these games entering into it?
So the Broncos just overall, they haven't been good on the ground this year, right? They have this backfield by committee. Sometimes it's Williams. We're just not seeing any level of consistency. There's some games that Bo Nix is leading the team in rushing. So at the end of the day, if they're not having this success on the ground, I think they just put the ball in Bo Nix's hands. And that's where we should be looking. So whether it's yards or whether it's attempts for him, that's the spot that I'll be looking. I'll also be looking to Kareem Hunt on the other side because he really should be seeing the majority of the work because Isaiah Pacheco isn't expected to play. So I don't mind looking, or even Carson Steele if he gets involved for the Chiefs, their third string running back. So those two on the Chiefs side of things, and it's got to be Bo Nix. He's their best option in the offense overall. And keep it simple. Just get the ball down the field, pick up some yards, convert the touchdowns. I don't know who's going to score. Maybe Cortland Sutton when it's all said and done, but I don't have any interest in their running game despite what the 10.5-point spread would indicate.
Entering week number 18, Vecchio, from that playoff outlook, there's a lot that is going to be decided, not just playoff spots, but seeding scenarios as well. So before all of the madness unfolds in this regular season finale weekend, we take a look at the Super Bowl 59 odds. Is there a team? Is there a number? Is there a wager that you think should be bet right here, right now, before week number 18?
Does anyone want to play the Rams? I feel like no one actually wants to play the Rams. They're going to have home field advantage, and granted, they may be going against a better team if, depending on the seeding works out, they could theoretically be playing the Vikings or Lions. But, man, the Rams number for a team that has proven it in the playoffs. Now, we can say that the Rams don't have as good of a defense as the Vikings, but man, Matt Stafford going up against the Lions defense that is absolutely reeling right now, dealing with so many injuries. I have a lot of interest in the Rams at that price, especially when they have home field advantage in the first round.
Love it, man. I can't wait to watch this thing play out, and there's going to be some numbers that are going to shock you once we get to playoff time and home field advantage. We'll see if it certainly carries some weight as it usually does in the playoffs. But if you flip it over to the hard court tonight, some really good games in the NBA, which includes the Clippers and the Thunder tonight. The FanDuel Sportsbook posting a 9.5-point favorite for the home team here, Oklahoma City, and a total that's now up to 218. Tom, any looks? Clippers, Thunder.
Yeah, this game is obviously super exciting from just like a standings perspective. The star power, SGA, has been absolutely unbelievable for OKC as of late. But let's go to Jalen Williams, under 20.5 points. He's been over this mark one time in the last 10 games, one single time. So I'm just not going to be, well, I don't know, what is minus 115, I think, on the over. It's slightly a little bit less on the under. I'm just going to be siding with what we've been seeing recently, combined with the fact that the Clippers, they're bottom 10 in offensive pace. This is an SGA-led offense, and the other players can have big games at times. It's just not Jalen Williams right now.
So when you look at OKC, 27-5, best record in the Western Conference, second best in the NBA, winners of 12 consecutive. Vecchio, we got to get the props from you, though. And we call you the jack of all trades. There's an NBA pick under Jalen Williams' points. Some action on the ice to start a new year that you can detail for us. And an early prop you would keep an eye on for the start of week number 18 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's going to be Joe Burrow. The fact that Chase Brown didn't practice on Wednesday, we're waiting for an update on him. The Bengals, they come to 64.42 pass play percentage. That's the second highest in the league. They're just going to put the ball in Burrow's hands. That's what it comes down to. And then on the ice, Kyle Connor, over 3.5 shots on goal for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. He has 131 shots this season. It's the seventh most in the entire league. And when we look at the Jets specifically, the next highest player on the Jets has 88. He has nearly 50 more shots than the next player. So we'll look there. I also specifically like the Ravens first half. They get out to a big lead first half spread, and then also the Texans first half. If they're starting their starters, they need to have some offensive consistency and momentum going to the playoffs after scoring 2 points last week.
It's a really good point, Vecchio. It always is when you are here on the early line. Thank you very much. More of TEL up next.
As the candles flicker, a new tradition shines. 8 nights of Hanukkah, 8 nights of winning insights.
Like, they may come out slow, so you might be able to get a better number. Wow, they're favored.
With SportsGrid, every night is another chance to win.
No pick sixes today, they cover. So let's crunch it up. Let's make it happen. Let's give you our favorite props.
Let your Hanukkah winnings brighten your celebrations. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
You basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet. Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhart and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line. We have talked so much college football on this Thursday, the National Football League entering week number 18. But one of the issues with the college football playoff about to reach the semifinal round and bowl season dwindling down to its final few games and the regular season finale weekend in the NFL, football is coming to a close before we know it. But basketball and some hardwood hoops action is starting to ramp up, especially in college basketball. Conference action, Donnie's favorite time of the year, really starting to get underway. We have seen the Big East already play multiple games in conference flow. We have also seen the Big 12 start their conference slate this week leading into a new year. And the Big 10 has played a few games in conference action, but now it's conference slates for the remainder of this season, including a couple of good ones on this Thursday evening. Yeah, it's a Big 10 battle now between Oregon and Illinois. Top 25 tilt out in Eugene as the number 9 Oregon team, led by its point guard Jackson Shelstad, and of course, longtime head coach Dana Altman, is a 4.5-point favorite against Brad Underwood and Illinois. One of the better games, DRS, on this Thursday in college basketball.
Yeah, it is. It is a pretty good game as it matches up, and some of these teams already have some games under the belt in conference. You know me, Ben, that sweet spot. Give me 6, give me 7, give me 8 games in conference play. Then through the rest of the way, we got a really good look because I like versus like competition. Give me the teams that are going to be lined up with equal athletes on both sides. Then you can make certainly an honest assessment. But if we are looking at the totality of the season, both of these teams, Ben, according to Ken Palm, top 25 in defensive efficiency, which is great to see. Also, take a look at Illinois, where they focused in. How about 4th in the country at defending the three-point line, 9th in the country at defending inside the arc. And also, if you're looking at turnover percentages here, they don't do that all that well, which is interesting because typically if you're turning the other team over, it's a little bit more helter-skelter. They're actually settling into defense and playing fantastic defense. So for my money tonight, Illinois with the slightly better defense. So therefore, earlier in the season, I'm going to lean towards the defensive team, which would be Illinois in this one.
Interesting spot on the road. You will start to see a lot of these spreads in conference slate not look like double digits, especially at the high major or power conference level. For instance, Minnesota's not a great basketball team this year under Ben Johnson in the Twin Cities, and yet is only getting 6.5 from a Purdue team that did struggle in the tail end of its non-conference slate, but against some of the best programs at the power conference level. But home floor advantage can be wonky in every single conference, certainly is in Big Ten hoops. Indiana, 4.5-point favorite against Minnesota, an uneasy season for IU and Mike Woodson, despite some early season optimism. Penn State off to a great second year under Mike Rhodes, laying 5.5 tonight at home against Northwestern. Gonzaga in Portland, also a conference game, 34.5 in favor of the Zags. FAU and Memphis, 2 solid programs out of the American. The Owls, 3.5-point favorite in Boca Raton. Let's get to some NBA action on this Thursday. Listen, you know I love our producer, Joe Frizo. I think he does sensational work. I don't know if I agree with this headline, DRS, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Finals preview? Listen, the Celtics, absolutely, right? 24-9, reigning NBA champs, second best team in the Eastern Conference, only behind the NBA's best, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I understand the Timberwolves played in the Western Conference Finals last year, still had a shorter price to win the Western Conference this year. It's a Minnesota team that's really been flirting with 500 all season long, 17-15. I'm not sure that Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves deserve that billing. Just my 2 cents.
No, you're right about it. I mean, what's next? We're going to use Midwest preview in this one or Midwest, tilt in this game at this point, with Minnesota up there and Boston there. But I guess when you're looking for Boston in total talent, they have the top picture there. If you're looking at the estimated starting lineup, Porzingis is actually supposed to be back tonight for the Celtics. So a full gas Celtics team, they're hard to pass up because if you say to yourself, Ben, the old adage, who do you think wins this game? Oh, I think the Celtics win it, but Minnesota covers. It's 4. Stop it. Just pick the winner here. I think it's going to be the Celtics. They should win and cover.
It actually seems like a shorter line, perhaps, than you would expect. Boston has been a favorite in 32 of 34 games this year, 32 of 35, I should say. They haven't been great covering numbers as of late, 13-19 against the spread. 6-game NBA slate on this Thursday that does feature a Midwest matchup, something I also hate because the game is in Oklahoma City. Don't consider the state of Oklahoma in the Midwest. Hate all these headlines. What's next? East versus West? out in San Francisco. Oh, would you look
see
at that? The Sixers and the Warriors there. Golden State struggling behind the way as of late. We'll set the stage for the Sugar Bowl next.
In the heart of winter, when nights grow long, we come together under these lights. A team, united by purpose. Fans bound by passion. Each holding a small flicker of hope in their hands. At SportsGrid, we believe that even the darkest nights can't dim the unity we share. One team, one stadium, one shining moment. This holiday season, we shine brighter together. Happy Hanukkah from all of us at SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this second day of 2025 on the Early Line on SportsGrid, a day we did not anticipate, previewing a college football playoff game, originally scheduled for New Year's Day, a triple header and a nightcap in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl between 2-seed Georgia and 7-seed Notre Dame. But of course, after the early morning hours and a terrorist attack in the Big Easy, in the French Quarter, a driver plowing a car through a pedestrian crowd on Bourbon Street, killing 15 people, injuring more than 35 others. It is with heavy hearts and a lot of significance that we look at today's Sugar Bowl as it was rescheduled from 8:45 last night to 4 p.m. Eastern on this Thursday. Before we get into the game, DRS, I do feel it bears repeating. It's a really strange circumstance to be playing this game. The right decision was made yesterday to postpone it until this afternoon. It's a weird dichotomy that sports often operates in. The real world, and where really significant and oftentimes tragic things can play out that also impact the sports landscape. But sport at its best, college football at its best, is filled with passion, excitement, tradition, pageantry, and can be an escape from harder times. It is going to be an interesting atmosphere, of course, in the Big Easy, and for a community that is reeling. All of our love and thoughts with everybody impacted by the terror attack in New Orleans. So that atmosphere will be a little bit strange for the Sugar Bowl. I hope, in its essence, it can provide a little bit of relief from what is going on right now in the matchup that we will have between Georgia and Notre Dame.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of emotion in this building, and not just the emotion from the college football playoff being in town and both of these teams' fan bases being excited. The emotion of you just witnessed a tragedy, but as you said, Ben, life still goes on. How do they recognize this? Because they've also been talking to most of the coaching staffs. I know Notre Dame talking about rallying for New Orleans. We'll probably see a patch or a sticker on the helmet, and we'll get a lot of this stuff up to the pregame here, even though it's not a night game at this point. So understand this. Life goes on, but compassion also goes along with life, and you're going to find that out tonight. Yeah. These kids also have the ability to compartmentalize all of this that's going on. And also keep in mind, this isn't something, Ben, where they're playing in the Rose Bowl and this took place in Miami Beach. It's oh, that's devastating, but it's tough to think about. You are in town. You're thinking about what happens if this was a day or two earlier, because the kids, what they want to do. Who doesn't want to see Bourbon Street when you're in New Orleans at that point? Probably walking along that same path days early and thinking about, boy, that could have been me. Or how about this, when you hear this tragedy, their family and friends and the fan bases are in town. What they were thinking right away when they woke up and heard this was my dad there, was my mom there, was my brother there, was my best friend down on the street. So it's amazing the ability that these athletes have to rise to the occasion and say, you know what, we still have a job to do on the football field, understanding the devastating fatalities, I should say, that happened on Bourbon Street, but we still have a football game to play, and we owe it to our fan bases and the nation to play it to above our best, because as we know as U.S. citizens, life goes on, man. Nothing's going to keep us down, tragedy or not. You're going to show your best face at this moment, and those kids are going to do that tonight for us.
And just because a football game is being played in New Orleans does not mean the scene in New Orleans outside of the Superdome feels any less hectic or devastating at this moment. But the game will be played at 4 p.m. Eastern time. You hope to not be inconsiderate, but express some compassion and allow football to be a little bit of that reprieve for more difficult things happening elsewhere. The game itself, the Sugar Bowl, and a spot in the college football playoff semifinal exactly 1 week from today in South Beach against Penn State in the Orange Bowl. It's the 2-seed Georgia in the 7-seed Notre Dame. In terms of the odds, we have seen a flip, even if it is as slight as 3 cents on the money line. For most of this week, Georgia was a slight favorite, 2.5 points. 1.5 points. Yesterday on New Year's Day, a slight favorite on the money line. They were minus 111. Notre Dame was minus 108. But Donnie, 3 cents is 3 cents. It is basically a pick'em. So tell us, who wins the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans on this Thursday afternoon?
If Carson Beck was still the quarterback for Georgia, and I always preface this by saying he probably didn't have the season he thought he was going to have, I'd be leaning towards Georgia winning this football game, and that spread would not be plus 1.5 for Georgia at the FanDuel Sportsbook. They would be a favorite. So that's good. So now that adjusted into the line. But I do think Notre Dame, if the structure comes down to who can move the football easily, I don't know if that's going to happen, which is why you have that total bet at 45.5. We're not looking at 55.5, 65.5, a shootout that's going to take place. But when the plays need to be made, can Gunnar Stockton make those plays? Or is he just going to try to make some plays with his feet? The one thing we do know, Riley Leonard has played a lot of college football in his career. He's taken thousands of snaps. He's been in big game environments already. Now, you do like the fact that Gunnar Stockton was inserted into the last game they played and quietly pulled out a championship, which was kind of crazy. But he wasn't the catalyst for that. He was just basically, okay, let me make a few plays here and there, not try to make mistakes, even though he had an interception. So for me, at the most important position in sports, Notre Dame has a big advantage. And as we pointed out, is there a big advantage between SEC Georgia's defense and Notre Dame's defense at this point? I think you can maybe call that a coin toss at this point, maybe give the leg up to Notre Dame here. So for me, I'm looking at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins this football game, Ben.
Statistically, Notre Dame has been the better defense all year long. But Georgia, in its biggest games of the year, has always risen to the occasion. It is what Kirby Smart does better than anybody else currently in this sport. He is a master motivator. He can take a false narrative that he begins and make it seem like a theme for his team the entirety of a season. To what I am referencing, in the two matchups against Texas, for a Georgia defense that, based on the stats, has been as bad as we have seen in the last 5 years in Athens. But in their two biggest games in each against Texas, including with an SEC title at stake, Georgia matched the moment. They allowed, against the Longhorns, who, of course, will play in the college football playoff semifinal as well, 60 total rushing yards over the course of two games on 55 total attempts from Texas. That is 1.1 yard per carry. For a Georgia defense that all year has allowed 128 yards per game on average, including the Texas matchups, that would be the worst mark since 2018. And that will be the biggest challenge, DRS, for UGA's defense. A Notre Dame rushing attack that is top 10 in the country, averaging 222 yards per game, where the quarterback, Riley Leonard, can utilize his athleticism alongside a great duo in the backfield of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. We'll see if Georgia can answer the bell once again. But the biggest question for this game is no doubt the starter for Georgia at the quarterback spot, making his first career start. That is Gunnar Stockton. 175.5 is his number. This will be his fourth appearance of the season. The second half and OT in the SEC championship game. 12-16, 71 yards, and an interception. He also carried it 8 times for 8 yards, showing a little bit of athleticism. The previous 2 appearances that Gunnar Stockton made this year against UMass and Tennessee Tech in routes. But I will say this, DRS. I talked about Kirby Smart being the master motivator. Maybe it's coach speak, but it feels like UGA's mentality. Kirby and the rest of this roster believes in the sophomore from Tiger, Georgia. Kirby, in the lead up to this game, said that Gunnar Stockton makes the other players around him play harder. Kind of a shot to Carson Beck, but also could be a resounding sentiment for what this Georgia team feels about its new starting signal caller.
It is kind of crazy, the narrative that we're building around this, too, because you're even hearing like, well, hey, Carson Beck drives around in a Lambo around campus. This guy drives a 1982 truck with 3. I mean, I understand you want to build him up. And Kirby Smart's not going to be like, you know what? Once we got Carson Beck hurt at the half, you know what? I don't even want to go to college football playoff. It's not fair to the other teams. We're not as good without Carson Beck. They have to pump him up. But even some of the kids talking about it, players on the team, boy, in practice, man, I mean, he's a fearless quarterback. Like, we know they're going to say that, but understand this.
Right.
This isn't a walk-on freshman that was 6th string that somehow found his way into this picture. That's a 5-star recruit who was damn good in high school.
We'll talk about the players that will impact the outcome next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
As we get you set for the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans, now we look at the player props and the individuals that, of course, will dictate the outcome of our final college football playoff quarterfinal. DRS, this is our 8th game of the first ever 12-team CFP. It features the lowest total at 45 and a hook of any of the 8. So how much offense will we see? How many overs might we see from these player props listed on your screen, with the biggest question for the actual football game? Gunnar Stockton, Georgia's new starting quarterback. 175 in a hook is his passing yards prop. Donnie, if he goes over that, is it necessarily a great thing for Georgia, or could it mean they are trailing and playing from behind for most of the football game?
You know what? I don't think it's that case. I actually think he would be playing from ahead in the first half, which means that they're going to be more aggressive and he might be able to hit some of those shots. And by the way, FanDuel Sportsbook, as you see that graphic, 175 and a half, now up to 181 and a half here live for him. So people are betting that Gunner's going to have a decent football game. Riley Leonard at the 180 and a half, and then the passing touchdown market here. Over 1.5, which means each one of these quarterbacks throw 2 touchdowns, plus 174 for Stockton, plus 205 for Riley Leonard. So those games that you think will be a little bit lower scoring, you're going to get that added boost if you think there might be a semblance of offense. But for me, it's not necessarily the pass, throwers. It's the pass catchers that we're going to look at in a few moments. But if you said, Donnie, which quarterback would you actually take to go over that number? To be honest, I think it might be Gunnar Stockton. I really do. Because I think his weapons at wide receiver are more in tune for the big play than Notre Dame's weapons at wide receiver to do that.
And again, Notre Dame operates under Mike Denbrock with Riley Leonard, an experienced quarterback, oftentimes like the triple option. Riley Leonard running the football, Jeremiah Love running the football with excellence in Jadarian Price as well. It is not necessarily shotgun, spread it out, drop back, air it down the field, 45-plus yards. Riley Leonard in the opening CFP game against Indiana, 23 of 32, 201 yards, a touchdown, albeit that early interception that was deflected. The 32 attempts for Riley Leonard against IU, tied for the second most he has had this year. His most this season in a Notre Dame uniform, 33. They are not looking to air it out against this Georgia defense that has struggled to contain the run in large part this year outside of each of their 2 matchups against Texas. Georgia has played 4 games against 3 teams that reached the college football playoff. They are perfect, 4-0 straight up and against the spread. The other 9, UGA is 0-9 ATS. Notre Dame against non-MAC opponents, 10-0-1 against the number, with an average margin of victory at nearly 28 points per game, with a scoring offense putting up 42 points per game in those 11, over in 7 of the 11. But DRS, again, you see that total right there, 45 and a hook. You mentioned the pass catchers for either side. Who has your attention for the Sugar Bowl and the Big Easy?
Well, that's the question, right? But also, as we just talked about the quarterbacks, 180, 175 and a half, we're talking about those numbers. The highest priced wide receiver tonight is going to be Arian Smith for Georgia, 36 and a half. You have starters out here, Ben, that have played hundreds of snaps this year in the 20s. You just have to make that decision where you don't get left out. But for me, it's probably more looking towards Arian Smith and a Dylan Bell on Georgia as it is, opposed to looking at Notre Dame's players, because there's not a lot of catches, not a lot of yards, and not a lot of touchdowns on their side of the ball. So for me, it probably is, because the one thing that you do know, even though Smith has the 36 and a half, he makes a lot of his yardage bet on what? Those rocket screens out quickly here, where he's got the speed to get deep. And also talking about the speed to get deep, where it's not like, hey, I need 5 catches to get 36 and a half yards. He might only need 3. And yes, they will be passing in this game. It's not just going to be running as if it's played in a snow bowl or a mud bowl at this point. So somebody's going to have to make plays. So for me, Ben, it's more Georgia wideouts than it is Notre Dame.
Gunnar Stockton's rushing yards prop on the rise, 27 and a half. Again, 8 scrambles for 8 yards in the second half of the SEC championship game and in overtime. Riley Leonard, who has rushed for at least 30 yards in 12 of 13 games for the Irish this year, his prop much higher than that, 44 and a hook. But you saw it in the matchup against the Hoosiers, the play that changed the outcome of that game very early in the opening quarter. Jeremiah Love in the 98-yard dash to score a touchdown. Outside of that, Notre Dame did not do much on the ground. 93 yards on 34 other carries against Indiana, who was the nation's best rushing defense all year long. But Jeremiah Love, DRS, is as good as you will find at the running back spot. Yes. He dealt with a knee injury in the final few weeks of the regular season. Maybe wasn't fully 100% entering that matchup against Indiana, and they haven't had the layoff that Georgia has had since the SEC championship game, but still over a week since that Friday night affair in South Bend. Jeremiah Love, this is crazy, because I bet it, because I was in New Jersey yesterday and could bet it, entering our College Football Today CFP preview special. Jeremiah Love yesterday to score a touchdown was plus 105. He's now minus 150. That's ridiculous. The minus 150 price is what I think is the true representative number, because Jeremiah Love has scored a touchdown in all 13 games for Notre Dame this season.
Yeah, he doesn't need a goal line carry to get it done. Like, ooh, get inside the 5, he's going to get it. This guy's a home run hitter with the best of them in football. Also, running back position, Trevor Etienne from Georgia. He was sort of a surprise that he appeared in that SEC championship game. Now with extra weeks here. And in that game, 16 carries, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns in that game against Texas, one of the better defenses. You now see him lined up at 88.5. He also should find pay dirt. But if we're talking about getting guys some extra reps here, and with a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of reps being a starter for UGA, Trevor Etienne is probably going to be the key. You can probably focus, man, and say, if Etienne gets 70 yards or less, Notre Dame's probably going to beat them. But if Etienne gets that 88.5 or more, they're probably going to win this football game. So that's probably the most singular important guy in this football game is Georgia running back Trevor Etienne.
And Notre Dame held Indiana to just 63 yards, but the Irish's rushing defense has been a little bit susceptible this season. Speaking of injuries, Riley Mills, one of the best defensive linemen in the country for Notre Dame, injured against IU, is going to miss the remainder of this college football playoff. Donnie, right side, always a pleasure, my friend. We send you off into the money line, and we send you off into a huge regular season finale weekend in the NFL. I'll talk to you on Monday. Going to be a big Monday, right? Coach firings, all of that. Talk to you then. Happy New Year once again. More in college football next. There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you got to love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for your Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like two old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
You basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line, our first edition of TEL in this new year of 2025 on the second day of this calendar year. A Sugar Bowl today in New Orleans, set to kick at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, postponed from last night in what was supposed to be the nightcap in New Orleans of a college football playoff tripleheader after the early morning terror attack in the Big Easy, in the French Quarter. So postponed from 8:45 p.m. yesterday to 4 p.m. Eastern on January 2nd. It is going to be an interesting atmosphere, as we have detailed numerous times throughout these 3 hours here on the early line. More so for the atmosphere and the fans, and what feels like it should be an exciting game that, of course, has to pay reverence to the serious nature of what is still unfolding in New Orleans. For the game itself, it's the 2-seed Georgia. It's the 7-seed Notre Dame. The Irish now an ever so slight favorite, but again, this is basically a pick where things stand. Notre Dame has one loss this year in 13 games early on in September against Northern Illinois, one of the largest upsets this season in college football. And against non-MAC foes, because Notre Dame also played Miami of Ohio a few Saturdays later and struggled in that game early against the Redhawks. Against non-MAC foes in 11 games this year, Notre Dame is 10-0-1 against the spread. They have been decisive. They have been dominant. You heard from somebody earlier on this show that Notre Dame was not all that impressive and dominant against Indiana. I would argue actually quite the opposite based on the final result. Indiana scored 2 touchdowns in the final 90 seconds of that game. The Irish in full command the entirety, basically, of 58 minutes in South Bend on that snowy Friday night to start the first ever 12-team college football playoff. I have shared, if I have not on the air, I bet the Irish with this game opened up for the CFP quarterfinal in the Sugar Bowl on the money line when Notre Dame was the slight underdog. Now they are a slight favorite. 45.5 is that total. I'll just say this. I think the best route for Georgia to win is under the number, because I believe Notre Dame's success comes from a rushing attack that has been excellent all year long. That is the biggest advantage that Marcus Freeman and the Irish have in this matchup. But Kirby Smart is as good as anybody. Maybe not even as good, is better than anybody in college football on getting his team prepared for a monumental moment, for a biggest game and stage of a season. It is why in 2 matchups against a darn good Texas rushing attack and offense, Georgia has held the Longhorns to 60 total yards in 2 games combined on 55 total attempts. That is 1.1 yard per pop. That is elite. In the other games this year, though, Georgia has struggled to stymie the run. See the 8 overtime thriller to end out the regular season against Georgia Tech for your proof. That is the key for Notre Dame. The success of Riley Leonard utilizing his legs, playing clean football, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price on the ground as well. I shared it. I bet Love's anytime touchdown prop yesterday at plus 105. It's now minus 150 for a guy that has scored in all 13 games for the Irish this season. But the biggest X factor of this game in the Sugar Bowl and potentially the remainder of the CFP is Gunnar Stockton, the sophomore from Tiger, Georgia, who has the full belief of his football program making his first career start today in the biggest stage of the season for the Bulldogs, still hunting down a 3rd national championship in the last 4 years. His passing yards prop on the rise, 181.5. 16 attempts in the second half and overtime of the SEC championship game. 16 total pass attempts in his only 2 other outings this season. The winner of today's game will face off with Penn State exactly 1 week from tonight in the Orange Bowl in Miami in the college football playoff semifinal. Both the Bulldogs and the Irish project to be a slight favorite against Penn State. The Nittany Lions as an underdog, not nearly as good as when they are expected to win a football game outright. And as we speak about the SEC, Lane Kiffin been doing a lot of talking throughout bowl season about the strength of a conference that has really not lived up to expectation just yet. In the Gator Bowl today in Jacksonville, The Runnin' Rebs, with a kickoff that is slightly delayed until 8 p.m. Eastern time to make space for the Sugar Bowl, has an opportunity at least to make a statement. Don't forget, Ole Miss did beat Georgia in Oxford earlier in the regular season. 17.5-point spread in favor of the Rebs against 9-win Duke. The early line returns tomorrow on a Football Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern.